There are a number of different ways services can be outsourced, starting at very basic subcontracting of services, such as things like cleaning, might be relatively short-term, quite tactical services, moving up through things like joint ventures and more strategic outsourcing of whole departments or functions, all the way through to having a strategic partnership with an organisation. As we get up this continuum, and it's almost a continuum, as we get up that, what we're seeing is really more strategic effect, longer term relationship, and typically outsourcing where it's output-based rather than input-based, the contract. So the contract is giving across the responsibility to the outsourced partner to deliver an output or an outcome rather than telling them how to do it. Well, when considering outsourcing in an option, organisations need to consider a number of things. What are they really trying to achieve? Lots of organisations in the current climate will be under enormous cost pressures, but outsourcing needs to be considered perhaps as a more longer term option for reducing cost, and therefore just a focus on the cheapest could be quite risky. Similarly, an organisation may be looking to outsource because they can't raise the investment needed to improve service or quality. Some of the main pitfalls when moving to an outsourcing arrangement can be things such as a focus on long-term improvement versus short-term cash saving. So are we really looking for a long-term improvement in service, a long-term relationship? That can run slightly counter to immediate substantial short-term cost savings. Another pitfall can be putting cost ahead of service, because obviously the cheapest does not necessarily equal the least cost in the long term. Other pitfalls are senior strategic leadership making a decision to outsource, but not giving that leadership throughout the procurement stage and importantly thereafter. And I often like to think about the marriage really starts after the wedding, and therefore there's a lot of work needs to be done in choosing the strategic partner, but also in working with them thereafter. And the other pitfall, and it came out in an earlier session that we ran today at the conference, was very much around the new costs that can come when you outsource. Some of the old costs will stick, but some of the new costs in managing the interface and managing a relationship can actually scupper the saving that you thought you were going to make.
Well, I work for National Savings and Investment, which has for the last 10 years had a very strategic outsourcing partnership with Siemens, or Siemens IT Services, which is a subsidiary of Siemens. It is one of the longest standing, and it was originally one of the largest public-private partnerships ever embarked upon, and is seen as something of an exemplar in the public sector world, because it's been a very successful arrangement from the perspective of both parties. So there are a number of things we've learned from that, things which actually contribute to its success. And I suppose first and foremost, when the contract was formed, N S&I had a very, very clear view of what it wanted to achieve from that outsourcing arrangement. Although the world changed quite significantly in the decade that followed, and what we thought would be the strategic imperatives in 1999 actually transpired to be something slightly different. Because the organisation had a clear view of what it wanted from its operation, and in fact it was a very, very brave move, because the entire operational infrastructure for N S&I, which is a very large financial services organisation with 27 million customers, actually went to a private sector entity. So that was a very brave move, but N S&I knew what it wanted and stuck to that. So that is one, I think, key ingredient of success. The second is actually probably just very hard work. These things don't just happen, and there have been ups and downs, I suppose, like there would be in any strategic relationship. But from N S&I's perspective, because we treated it as a partnership and not simply as a purchasing contract, we worked very hard to ensure that there were mutual benefits for this. And I think mutual benefits actually sustain such arrangements. And clear and unequivocal communication is important. Part of the partnership is that the outsourced partner actually sits on our management committee, sits on some of the governance committees. We share conferences, we attend each other's events, and that gives a mutual understanding which I think has sustained success in the longer term.